Hi, welcome to Board Game Express. Today, we're going to rules blitz Ticket to Ride Europe. Now, Ticket to Ride Europe, you're going to be building out trains in order to build a network to connect to the cities on your destination cards to score the most points. Now, on your turn, you're going to be able to do one of four things. First, you can draw more train cards. So from the deck, you get to take two cards, either face up, or if you want, you can take face down. Now, instead of taking two cards, if you want, you can take a single face-up locomotive, a wild card. But just remember, if you take this, you cannot take a second card during the turn. Now, you do need to draw your cards one at a time, because if in the event you see a third locomotive hit the market at the same time, you will need to wipe the market and then draw out 5 new cards so that there are not too many locomotives up. Right, the second thing you can do is you can play your tickets in order to claim routes on the board. So I've already put out a few, but for example, if you want to claim this route between these two cities, you have to pay for all of it. You need to pay 3 orange cards, so like this. And that will allow you to put out your trains. And they will be worth points on this scale. Whether you want to score as you play or whether you just kind of want to save it all for the end is up to you. I find that it's usually easier to do it at the end, since at the end of this game you kind of feel that you need to double check anyway. All right, the third thing you can do on your turn is you will start the game with a few of these destination tickets. You can draw more. On your turn, you get to draw 3. And looking at those 3, you have to keep at least one of them. So you can keep 1, 2, or 3 and add them to your hand. Just keep in mind, this is the one and only time you get to decide. If you decide to keep it, you are stuck with it. You will not have a chance to get rid of them. And finally, the fourth thing you can do on your turn is to build what's called a station token. So stations, like routes, can be built anywhere where it hasn't already been taken. So these, instead of going between two cities, are placed on cities. So for example, to build your first station, you have to pay 1 card. In order to build your second, you have to pay a pair, matching pair. And to play your third, you have to play a matching 3 of a kind. And as usual, you can always use wild cards. Now, those 4 actions give you a little bit more detail. The routes that you claim are usually going to be colored. You have to pay that solid color of that quantity to claim that route. There are a couple other things that you might see. One is you might see gray. If you see a route that is gray, you do have to play a solid color. So for example, this one, you'd have to play 4 cards of the same color. But gray means you get to choose the color that you want. So I can do 4 orange, I can do 4 red, whatever. The second thing you'll notice on the board is what are called ferry routes. So this is an example of one down here. A ferry route will have at least one box that's got a little like train marker in it. So to claim a ferry, it is required that you pay at least that number of locomotives. So this one would require 1 wild, and I can have 3 others of a solid color of my choice. Down here, this bigger ferry, you're going to see 2 of these, so that requires 2 wilds in addition to 4 other cards. The third type of route that you can claim is what's known as a tunnel. So these tunnels kind of have a darker outline around them and these bumps going around. A tunnel represents a little bit of a risky build. So when you build a tunnel, first thing you do, so let's say I want to claim this 4 gray over here. You put out the 4 solid colors of whatever it is you're trying to build. So maybe I'm trying to build orange, right? So I would lay out 4 orange and say, hey, I'm going to try and claim this route. Now what you do is you take the top 3 cards from the deck, and it's going to be 3 no matter which tunnel you're trying, and you're going to reveal them, and you're going to say, okay, how many cards that I drew match what I'm trying to play? So any orange cards that came up, or any wilds, because a wild would be considered an orange for this situation, I would have to pay additionally in order to complete that route. So in this case, I got lucky, nothing came up, I get to build normally. But if an orange had come up, I would have to match with another orange out of my hand or a wild. And if I did not have it or I did not want to do it, I'm afraid I would actually be stuck. I'd have to take these back into my hand, and I failed to claim the route, and the next player gets to go. So a little bit of risk. Now, everyone's going to take turns, and the game is going to end whenever one player ends up with enough trains played out so that they only have 2 or fewer remaining. So once somebody's down to 2, 1, or 0, then it's time for everyone, including that person, to get one more turn, and then the game is over. At that point, you're going to double check that you scored the points for your routes correctly, that you didn't forget anything. You are going to get 4 points for every station that you did not use and still have available. And finally, you are going to score all of these destinations that you kept. So whichever ones you kept, you're now going to check out on the board, and each destination ticket is going to list 2 cities somewhere. And so if you can point to a complete contiguous route of yours from one city to the other, that counts as completed. You're going to score the points on the card. If for some reason your path is broken and you do not connect them, then you're going to fail that card. You're going to get negative whatever the listed points. For the purpose of connecting, that's what these stations are for. Every place you have a station, it allows you to point to one opponent's route. So let's say, for example, red had built this. And let's say, by the end of the game I had done this. So if this is the situation, I would be able to say, well, for this station, I would like to count this route of my opponent's, and thus I am successfully connected from here to here. That's what these tickets are for. And remember, each one can only point to one opponent's route, so it's not like I can do that and that and that. All right, and very final thing, once everyone's done counting, the last thing you're going to score is what's called the European Express. So look at each of your routes, try and figure out how many trains are on your longest continuous, wherever it may be, and whoever makes the longest single connected path, that player is going to win 10 additional points. And if it's a tie, everyone is going to get that 10 points and share. All right, now you know how to play Ticket to Ride Europe.